Today on Dees Talk, my guest is Ryan Stevens. Ryan's story is one of resilience and transformation. From being bullied at school to opening a tattoo studio at 19, his path took some tough turns, including a 9-month stint in prison for selling drugs that ultimately became the catalyst for change. He built his life, he rebuilt his life by working in substance misuse and mental health, creating communities around self development and chasing purpose instead of money. Now, Ryan is a wellness and mindset coach, a retreat leader with Wild Minds Gower, and an ultra marathon runner who knows what it takes to push through the hardest challenges. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you for having me, and it's good to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you too. Yeah, me and Ryan met when we were on a retreat in Ibiza that was all about brain chemistry with TJ Power, who is a neuroscientist, and we did a lot of training and hiking, and so we
Mm.
we were learning about brain chemistry, and then we were applying the lessons immediately
Yeah.
with sunshine and healthy foods and all that healthy gut stuff with
Mhm.
Oranja, which is a retreat company. Shout out to the guys there,
Will and
Will
Naomi,
and
yeah.
Naomi at Oranja.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was an incredible experience actually, wasn't it? It was yeah, to actually, like you said, learn about the different neuroscience that, TJ Power talks about, but then actually, like you said, applying it and and just doing what you would generally do on a retreat, I suppose. But when oh, actually, this is producing serotonin or this is
All right.
producing
Yeah.
dopamine. And it was like, yeah, I feel like it made it quite tangible then, didn't it? So it's
Yeah,
not just
because
the
like
theory or
you were
the,
probably doing it anyway in a lot of the
Mm.
retreats you put on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Exercise makes you feel good. Getting out into nature makes you feel good.
Mm,
But that was an interesting
mm.
concept to connect it to the actual mechanism of the neuroscience, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's why I really kind of resonated with TJ Power stuff. For years and years, and I was like, always sharing the stuff that he put up on social media because I was like, it's just really easily digestible, but
Yeah,
quite actionable as well. So you can listen to it
sure.
and go, oh, actually, I know what to need to do here.
Yeah.
And I was like, sharing it for ages and stuff. So that's why when we seen him in Ibiza then, and we were with him for a few days, that was amazing, and it was nice to I suppose back up the fact that like all of the stuff that I do it with schools or colleges or like different groups of people or like with Wild Minds Gower then the retreats and stuff I run, it was refreshing to know the different neurotransmitters that are getting
Sure.
sort of released. I knew bits and
Some of
pieces
them,
and this and that,
yeah,
but it
like
was
endorphins, yeah, the
yeah, but it
obvious
was
ones,
nice to
yeah.
know, yeah, like you said, the ins and outs of it and actually the importance of it as well. So,
Sure.
yeah, waking up and just not using your phone first thing, getting some sunlight, doing a little workout, getting some positive dopamine from brushing your teeth, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
I was like that was quite yeah, it's easy stuff, but at the same time we don't tend to do it. That we get into these
Yeah,
routines and habits
it's
that
so easy just to get up and get on the phone straight away, which is I think a habit, especially since it's next to your bedside table charging often. So you just like wake up, look what time it is. Oh, there's some notifications. Let's
mm,
start scrolling. Yeah, that's quite dangerous. But
yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to go into some of your journey. So you mentioned on your website as a child, you had this recurring vision where you would go on to create wonderful things
Mm,
and make an impact. What kind of vision
mm.
was that? You said it was a recurring vision? Was that a general thing? Was it
I
quite specific?
I gotta be honest, I forgot that was on the website
Oh,
actually. No,
really?
but no, it was.
Okay.
I mean, so interestingly, yeah, I think it wasn't I wouldn't say it's a specific vision of like, oh, this is where I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to be doing.
Mm,
And, there were, I used to daydream a lot. I think,
yeah.
and still to this day, I suppose I do. But, I would sort of daydream of doing. Um, Amazing things or just being in like Australia and different places and just traveling and experiencing amazing stuff or doing mad stuff like jumping out of airplanes and things.
Right.
I suppose like in a way to word it would be to romanticize your life. So I don't know if you've heard that people talk about
Right.
romanticizing your life, not in terms of
Be the main character
I
or kind
suppose
of
so. Yeah, yeah, I
in your
suppose so.
story.
Yeah, I suppose that was probably it. And I just think the area I come from in Swansea, it's classed as sort of I suppose a poverty-stricken area in a sense. I was quite fortunate. My parents they owned the house that I grew up in, They had money struggles and things like that, growing up. So I saw a lot of that.
Mm,
The school I went to, I think it was only open for like 10 years or something.
right.
Yeah, it was open for a few years before I got there and a few years afterwards. But
Well, they shut it
they
down.
shut it down because it was like the worst catchment area in Swansea.
Okay.
And when I do work in schools now, they say, "Oh, this is the worst group of people we've ever seen." And I work with them. I'm like, nah, compared to the guys I was in school with,
Right.
these are amazing. So it
Well,
was
what
it
kind
was
of guy is just really rough or what? Just
just bonkers, just
right.
great people, but just for example, like there was a couple of the boys who they locked one of the English teachers in her cupboard for the entire hour,
Oh my
for the
God.
lesson.
Oh, what,
Um,
like physically pushed her
no, no,
in?
she just walked into
Oh,
like
and
it
then
was
they
like
locked it.
yeah, one of those little rooms where they keep the bits and bobs and stuff. So
Right.
she basically went in there, I think, to get something, and they just locked her in there. And they just wouldn't let her out. Um, you know, Somebody poisoned one of the teachers. They literally put
Oh
like
my God.
aerosol in her like cup of tea, but she had an allergic reaction, nearly died. It was
Oh
just
my
like,
God.
it was a crazy school, right? There was so much like that was just the tip of the iceberg. There was so many things
So
there.
like you were bullied there, you say.
Yeah.
So what can you
Mm.
talk about that? Or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So, I always talk about this when I do talks in schools and things now.
sure.
So I didn't, at the time, I didn't really think like this is bullying because the boys, if I'd said to them like, "Are you bullying me?" or whatever, they'd be like, "Oh no, it's just a bit of banter.
Just banter.
It's just,
Yeah.
it was just
The line
banter."
between banter and bullying is quite, yeah,
Yeah,
fine, isn't it?
it got to the point where I just didn't want to, go to school the next day,
Right.
because it was just relentless, constantly
Right.
relentless, and it was, they at one point, I remember they came up with a different like nickname or name, or offensive name, I suppose,
Yeah.
for every letter of the alphabet for me, right? Or just like,
Wow. Why were they so targeting towards you?
do you know what? I think,
Sometimes they get it in their heads and then it just becomes a thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think they found it like obviously funny,
Yeah.
and because other people got involved, then it became like a bigger joke, and then obviously me reacting to it as well in some instances that
Right.
fueled the fire, I suppose. Um, but yeah, it was that started in kind of year 9, so when I was about 14 or whatever. Then it sort of continued through to year 10 as well,
Oh,
and I actually tried leaving school,
right.
going into the last year. I remember saying to my parents, like, I want to, change schools. I want to go to Bishop Vaughan instead of where I was. And they were like, well, why? All your friends are in that school. You've been there
Yeah.
4 years and stuff. And I didn't actually have the heart to tell
So you
them.
never told them you were being bullied?
Probably afterwards. Yeah, probably
Really? But
afterwards.
at
But
the time you never said, like, how about the teachers? Like, did you ever, or that was like,
no, it didn't really. It,
snitching,
yeah.
snitches get stitches kind of.
I would say it didn't really, like I say, I probably didn't want to admit it to myself, actually. I think that's what it was.
Right.
And also because it was like, it was banter.
Yeah.
So, it was like, I kind of read it as, oh, it's banter, but it's like a banter that I don't
Hurtful.
like, essentially,
Yeah. You're the
But
butt of the joke every time kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I ended up having a couple of fights over it. I remember there was
Yeah.
one guy, he came up, he like sort of what they called happy slapped.
Oh my
So
God. I remember those days when people started posting that online and then
yeah,
some people went deaf even because they were doing it
yeah,
really hard. Just random people on the street
yeah.
happy slapping. Wow, that
It
brings back
was. I
memories.
know. I was going to say, I hope that doesn't come back because
Oh
that was
no.
bad. It was, but he did it, and we had a bit of mess boat fight, when he did it. But then he did it again straight afterwards, and I just saw red, and I just
Right.
charged at him, and I was just windmilling, and I was like,
Right.
because I didn't even know what I was doing, and he was just sort of stepping back, just jabbing me in the face. And after a couple of like, a couple of minutes, then I kind of calmed down, and I went, fair enough, you did me, but then I was like, I just saw a complete red.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was just stuff like that, and in my maths lesson, I remember that, it was all of the guys that were doing or saying stuff like that, they were all in that class. And I remember counting to see how long I could go without somebody saying something, right? And it was
Wow.
17 seconds.
Oh
Like, and I
my
would restart
God.
the
That's
count.
brutal.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was just constant, constant, constant. But then
And
weirdly in year,
were the teachers not aware of what was going on if it was in the class? I mean, or they were just overrun themselves, or
I can't really remember, to be honest.
because
Yeah.
like I would like, would you say that today there's more protection against bullying than there was
Mm.
probably when we grew up?
Probably, yeah, I
Probably.
think so. I mean, I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it definitely still goes on.
Yeah, I mean, like in my
Yeah.
daughter's schools, for instance, they have whole sessions about it, about bullying, what to do.
Mm,
Like, not that obviously they shouldn't do it. They sort of
mm,
proactively try to prevent it from happening and speak to
Mm,
people, speak to the kids and say what they can do if they are bullied and stuff. So
yeah.
I don't know, at least it feels
Mm,
like there are more protections today than there were. And also today there's a lot more political correctness
mm,
compared to in those days where
mm,
there was, banter was a bit more open, should we
yeah.
say, you know.
It probably depends on the school and the area and stuff, like how much it happens, and like you said,
Yeah.
and the amount of sort of um yeah, so it's protection there is around it in terms of the teachers and about what their reactions are to it all.
Mm,
But weirdly though, when I went back into the last year of school, right, I thought, right, if I got to do another year of this, I want to make sure that I'm going to let it be like water off a duck's back, so I'm not
yeah.
going to bite, I'm not going to let it affect me. And it was really interesting because it was only 6 weeks, 6 weeks summer holidays. And it was almost like everybody it just stopped overnight, pretty much. Like I
Wow.
remember going back in, and people would say the odd thing here and there, but because I was not reacting to it, and I
It
sort of,
wasn't fun for them anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
almost like that mindset shift
Yeah.
changed my sort of like energetic
Yeah. That's
thing
interesting.
about it, and it was weird because it just seemed to stop.
Yeah.
And actually, then I was, but a long time afterwards. Then and this is stuff I talk about now in schools and things. Is
Sure.
the self confidence, the self worth that I had
Yeah.
after that? It was way down there.
Right.
And I think, for me, going on, you mentioned the ultra marathons, which we can kind of get
Yeah.
onto a bit, but I feel like that kind of stuff and doing mad challenges, but also just challenging myself in different ways to set up a business, or to do things that I didn't think were possible. Other thought people would like say, "Oh, you won't be able to do that." I feel like overcoming different challenges that in life has massively helped me to build up that self confidence and self worth. Because you feel like, well, actually, maybe I'm not what they were saying, and maybe I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
got something to offer, and maybe there
Sure.
is, some sort of magic that I can sort of give to the world. And the recurring vision thing, I feel like that's probably what it was. It felt as though there's,
Like,
I've got some sort of magic, and I feel like everybody's got that magic. We
mm,
just got to discover what that is, or take away the barriers that are in front of us to discovering or uncovering that magic that we've got to give to the world.
sure. And also not taking, I mean, that's obviously easier said than done, but
Mm,
to not react to what other people are telling you and to have that self belief from inside, I think
mm,
that's a huge thing people can learn. Because it's, I think there's some old kind of Buddhist saying or something. I'm going to sort of butcher it now, but basically, if someone gives you an insult or someone insults you, it's like if someone offers you a present and you don't accept it,
mm,
who has the present? It's not you, it's them. Or that if
mm,
someone's angry towards you, then it's them,
mm.
So you not reacting in that case was like, well, it's still with them. Then it probably wasn't fun for them because they didn't
Yeah.
get the reaction they wanted in front of everyone.
100%. Dr. Phil in America, the
Yeah.
TV presenter guy or psychologist, whoever he is, I think he said his father, they were driving somewhere or went somewhere before, and I think his father said to him, he's seen a guy that he must have known, and he said, "There's something about that guy that I don't like about myself." So there's something
Mm,
about that guy that I don't like about myself.
right. You
You
see
know,
something in them that
yeah.
kind of reflects in you.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's what they say. It's like
A
there's if
mirror.
there's a reason we sort of dislike somebody or hate somebody, maybe they've done something specifically that has affected us.
Mm,
But in a lot of instances, it's just maybe we get this sort of idea in our brain about somebody, but actually it's probably because there's a part of ourselves that we don't like. So it could be if we see somebody who's got like a nice fancy car and money or
yeah.
whatever, and we don't have that nice fancy car or the money,
Yeah.
we would maybe say, they're
S-
whatever, they're a drug
Start
dealer, or
attacking them. Yeah.
but people do. They say like,
They try and
so
pull
and
them
so's a drug
down.
dealer, or they're
Yeah.
corrupt, or they try and sort of, what they're really saying in that instance probably is actually, I don't have that, so it's easy to try and attack that person to diminish what they've achieved and who they are and things like that, because
To make
rather than,
myself feel better about
yeah,
me,
yeah,
about the lack of it in me, and the fact that I want
mm,
those things. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, yeah, right, interesting. Yeah,
mm,
no, I often find that too, that what you see in others can trigger something in you.
mm,
That's very interesting. Yeah. So then you turned it all around, and well, not at first. You
yeah, yeah,
you so
yeah. Yeah.
you so you launched a tattoo studio,
Yeah, so
and then that didn't work out too well.
so we I went to college after, at school, and for me that was great because I thought, right, I remember saying to myself, like, I can kind of reinvent myself here because
Mm,
I'm, going to be around some of the guys, but the majority of them didn't go to college.
right.
The ones who were giving me shit. So they
So
get.
karma came back and got them
Yeah, so
there.
like a lot of the guys who actually went to college were my friends from school. Like they, like I said, I'm still mates with them all today and stuff like that, and we went through. So that was like a reinvention, but I did a couple of different courses and stuff. And then I went on to one, I think, so I did mechanical engineering for a year. I did another 2 years in business, and then I did an entrepreneurship course. But that entrepreneurship course, that like was a game changer for me because I thought, I fucking love this. Like this is the
Right.
stuff I want to be doing.
It's
I just
creative.
being
You can,
creative and
have a
self-development.
vision. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then off the back of that course, um, I started chatting to one of my friends who was doing, a tattoo apprenticeship and stuff, and I asked him for, to help me sort of do designs and things like that. I'll pay him to do designs so I could set up a t-shirt line,
Right.
a clothing brand, and he said, "Oh, well, I want to set up a tattoo studio." So we kind of. I was helping him with that. He
Yeah.
was helping me with the design side of things, and then we end up kind of just going. What he said, should we just do this together?
Right.
So we set it up. We had two guys then came for work for us. We had two apprentices. So I was only 18 and then just turned 19. He was maybe 21, I think, so 2 years older than me.
Okay.
But we had no money to our name, literally. So he had no savings. I had no savings. I was working in Asda, but we just
Right.
had this vision of making it happen.
Sure.
We managed to piece it together. Got like 6 grand in funding for like 4 different people, investment. Um, we set it up on a prop budget,
Right.
shoestring budget. And then we just, yeah, we started doing it, and we were like earning, decent wage, each week. I was paying all my food and fuel and stuff out of it.
Nice.
When we were going on nights out once or twice a week, and we were just, basically paying that out of the money from the
Sure.
shop as well. So it was great, at that age, because I remember I went to have a poker night with some of my mates, and I was just like, I wasn't even interested in poker that night. I was just talking about, what we were going to create and how we were going to do it and blah, blah, blah. And my mates laughed me out of the house, right? I remember walking out like nearly crying, like completely deflated
What? Yeah.
because
When
they
you
just,
so you shared your dream and they just popped it.
yeah, they was
Right.
just like, couldn't see how it was going to happen. They were just laughing like, oh, you dull as fuck. You're not going to be able to do this and blah, 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 blah. And I just remember thinking, oh yeah, maybe actually. And I spoke to my business partner. He's like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to work. And just got into that pessimistic
Yeah.
mindset.
Once. Yeah.
And then I realized, I went, hang on, none of them have actually set up a business. None of them have
Yeah.
been on
They
this
have no
journey.
idea. Yeah.
And the way I put it now as well is like, if someone hasn't walked down that road, how can they tell you it's the right way or the wrong
Yeah.
way? And another thing is like, what kind of, if you were to want to build a house, who are you going
Yeah.
to ask for advice on that?
Someone who's built
Someone's
houses.
built houses, a
Yeah.
builder, an architect, or if you're not going to ask somebody who sells diamonds or sells jewelry or whatever, you might,
Right.
but they might not be the best person to do it, sort of thing. So it's kind of like that is what I realized, and I thought, right, I'm going to just put faith and stock in myself in terms of my ability, and just went for it, and we did it, and the same boys then were asking for a discount on tattoos then about 6 weeks later,
Right.
so that was fun. But yeah, we had it for about a year and a bit, and the sort of cracks started to show
Mm,
in the business, and that was like not financially, financially it was doing okay, it was doing
right.
good, um, but me and my business partner, we weren't getting on. There was like we're friends now, but we didn't speak for a long time. We weren't getting
Yeah.
on. Eventually there was like money going missing, and
I see.
just it became a very toxic workplace. That's to put it mildly.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I remember just I was just driving to work, sitting on the reception desk and whatever, and like just booking people in and out and doing some stuff. And I felt like a glorified receptionist because I didn't have any sort of like autonomy in the business. Like
Because you're not the tattoo artist.
not no, just in terms of like if anything ideas wise I'd come up with was just getting sort of shut down and things like
Right.
that, and
Yeah.
and it kind of felt as though with some of the other people in the business, it was just almost like I got like the bullying situation with school.
Right.
It kind of got like that where I was just like essentially
Oh,
getting bullied
shut
and
up, Ryan.
yeah,
Whatever.
yeah,
Your
just
opinion
loads
doesn't
of that
matter.
kind of
Right.
stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and I remember it felt like I was driving through the mist, and if you're driving through the mist, you don't know where those next turnings are until you're
Mm,
like right on top of it. That's kind of what it felt like at that point in my life. So I was just on autopilot, literally just depressed, basically,
I see.
and I didn't really know what depression or anxiety or any of that was at that point. So, I remember
It wasn't talked about in those days.
wasn't talked about.
Yeah,
Didn't
especially with a
yeah.
man, like with men, right? That was
Yeah, yeah.
crazy.
I mean, anybody. I just feel like, I
Anyone.
didn't really know what those things were. But, looking back, I can see, oh, shit, actually, I was in like a very depressed state of mind. And I remember, I just went to, I would have been about 2021. I went away on holiday and I came back and I basically, one of the other artists kind of said, yeah, they're going to go elsewhere, set up their own business and stuff like that. And rather than sort of facing that head on, or just cutting my losses or doing any number of 100 different things, because I was in that headspace, I could not see, a way out of it actually.
Sure. Yeah.
So
You were
I started
stuck.
selling drugs
Right.
for probably about 3 months, something like that. Not long
Right.
at all, and I was a terrible drug dealer. I was shit. I was really shit. Um,
What were
but
you selling? What were you...
cocaine.
Okay.
Yeah, and because in my
High
head I thought,
margins, right? At least.
say it again.
Was it
Hi.
high margins on that
I was
one?
terrible. No,
I was terrible.
I was crap, so I was like, I'd probably lost money,
Oh
It was
no.
honestly, I probably lost money just because I was like, selling it so like cheap to mates and things like that. But
Sure.
what I realized looking back was I was just in such a shit place, and I feel like it was almost like a sort of a subconscious cry for help or
Sure.
to escape somehow.
Right.
But I started doing it, and I got to the point I was drinking by 4 or 5 days a week at this point as
Oh
well, right?
no.
Now,
Right.
again, I was like 19, 20, or 20, I think, at this point. So I was justifying it as, I'm 20 years old, I'm going out on student nights,
Yeah.
it's karaoke on a Thursday in Yates, it's a Friday's a good night out and Saturday. So I was justifying it as my age.
Yeah.
But looking back, it's like, no, actually, I was masking some of the shit that I had going on, which I was not
Right.
addressing
I
the
see.
right way and in a healthy
That was
way.
like your escapism on the weekends, right? Kind of thing.
Through the
Oh,
week as well.
through the week as
Through the
well.
week as well. Yeah, and I think looking back, then I could see how much of a shit place I was in. But basically, I started selling drugs. I actually walked out of the business eventually because I was like, I don't like the person I'm becoming with this. I don't want
Yeah.
to be doing this. So I walked out and I got a job in Admiral. And after like a couple of days, I was like, I feel normal again. Like I'm around
Wow.
really
Yeah.
positive people, but they were
Yeah.
just normal people.
Right.
It was just such a contrast from the situation I'd
Sure.
been in.
Which you had to get out of it to have that perspective. Yeah.
100%. And at that point, then I thought, right, I'm going to just get rid of the last bit of stuff but I've got here because I don't want to be this person.
I'm out of that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember I was just on a night out steaming, trying to get rid of the last bit of stuff I had on me. End up getting like a swab test going into a nightclub. Just for some reason, I thought it would be a great idea to walk in there when they're clearly doing swab tests and stuff. But I was just so like just drunk or whatever. I just didn't
Yeah.
really think. But yeah, no, I got caught, got arrested, and sent me down for 28 months. But I was inside
So
for
they
9
arrested
months.
you. What? So you did a swab test. So that meant that you had it in your system.
No. So it was on the hands. It's basic.
Ah.
So if you've been handling, you can get it if you're handling cash. To be honest, like
Oh,
they.
because like all cash has coke on it or something.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's
basically,
what...
yeah. So they kind of, they going into the nightclub, they swab your hands, and then if you come up as positive, they do you like a pat down and whatever.
Right.
So they did that, and like I said, they found quite a bit on me.
On your person.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because I was trying to get rid of whatever I had
Right,
on
I
me.
see.
And yeah, that was it. Then so 9 months later, I
Wow.
came out, but because it's Class A, they've got like guidelines which they need to follow with sentencing. So
And that was your first offense as well?
first, well, I did. It was the first of recordable offense. So basically, I robbed my father's car when I was like 16 and took it for a little joyride.
Right.
So yeah, me and two friends, we took it for a little spin when I was like 16.
Who hasn't? Come on.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I got caught actually.
Right.
So, but they gave us an NFA, no further action for that.
Okay.
So other than that, yeah, it was my own first and only
there's a
offense.
first charge and they straight to prison. Wow, that's quite...
It's yeah, because it's a Class A,
Yeah.
so it's quite obviously serious, and because it was you got three tiers, and then three roles and 4 categories. So you got lesser role, which would be if me and you just had a thing with you now and we just shared it between us. So that's lesser role.
Okay.
Significant role is I've sold it to you,
Right.
and then leading role is I'm manufacturing or distributing or
Sure.
importing, and then you've got 4 categories based on the amounts and.
Right.
You know,
Above certain number of grams or whatever.
so yeah, four category for the lowest is up to 5 grams. I think 5 grams up to 100 grams then is category 3, which is the one that I was in. So I had like
Right.
just 20 grams or something, I think.
Right.
category 2 is 100 grams up to like a kilo, I think, and then a kilo plus is category 1 then. And
Wow.
then it's like you've got aggravating or mitigating factors. So like, you know, the purity, for example, or if you're mixing it with some stupid shit, that will make it worse as well. Or if it's
Right,
low
fentanyl,
quality,
whatever.
that's like a mitigating factor. Or if you, yeah, do you know what I mean? So there's
Yeah,
different things like that. But yeah, it was. I remember walking in on day 1, and I was just like
into the prison.
into the prison,
Yeah. How
and
was that? I
yeah,
mean, I always like sometimes I play this sort of um, mental game of like, what would I do in prison? And it's
mm,
quite,
mm,
you see these movies and stuff. How does it compare to the movies? Is it, yeah.
yeah.
How was your day one walking in? Like, what did you feel?
So I'd say some prisons, like Swansea prison, for example, they call it like I think they call it a holding jail. So it's kind of like
Hmm.
if you're either in for short term stuff, or if you've got a bit of a longer sentence, you're going to get sent to a different prison somewhere else, pretty
Right.
much, rather than just staying there. So it's not. It's rough, but it's not quite what you see in sort of films and stuff, based on my experience. But I think
Right.
if you go to different jails in, like, you know, England and different things like that, you know, it's very much a lot more challenging, a lot more sort of rough and things like that. Um,
So was
but
it like day one you have to like get
mm,
in a fight to show you're
no,
hard or
nothing
whatever?
like that.
Nothing like that.
Nothing
No.
like that. Nah, you know, but I think as well, if you go in and you want to kind of keep your head down and just sort of
Get
crack on and just
yeah.
do your, what they call it, do your bird, you
Yeah.
know, if you just do that, you will probably be okay. But I think if you go in there and you're trying to be the big man, or you're trying to, like,
Right.
you know, get involved in stupid stuff or selling or this and that or whatever, or you're getting stuff off people like
Drugs and
drugs or fags or
yeah.
whatever, and you're not people paying people back. I think that kind of side of things then is when you end up like leaving yourself open to potentially getting in the shit. You know, there will be times outside of that it happens,
So
but
so sort of getting your head down doesn't is not seen as, oh, he's weak, he's trying to hide, he's trying to get out. You don't have to like join a gang or anything like
no, I mean,
that.
probably in some prisons, I'd say, like, you know, in the
Maybe in the
category A,
States probably, yeah,
or yeah, or in the
or here.
category A prisons, like the
Yeah.
ones which are quite high risk and things, that may be in those. You know, I had a friend, I knew him beforehand, actually, not that well, but I met him in there. So seen him in there then, and we got a bit closer, actually, from the back of that, because he's from the same area. So he was in for quite like a serious violence offence,
Right.
and he went up to a prison in Birmingham, and you know, he said it was really rough. Like, there were
Right.
stabbings weekly, you
Wow.
know, fights daily, really, really rough. But he said, you know, he was up there 18 months, and as long as you don't get involved in it, he was fine,
Right.
you know. And I think the guy he was friends with up there ended up like hitting somebody with a pool ball, because somebody put a call out saying, oh, you know, anybody hits this guy, you know, you get 500 quid, you know. And he was just like, his guy he was in there with then just went and done it. But
Right.
like I said, he actively went and looked for
Yeah.
the trouble then. But otherwise, it's not
So
that
right. So
thing.
you can stay out of trouble if that's what you want.
In
You don't
my
get you
experience
don't get
of it,
sucked in
yeah.
and then someone
Mm.
makes you their bitch or
Yeah,
whatever. Like
no,
like
no, no. Definitely didn't. Yeah, like, it definitely happens in some prisons, I'd say, but
sure.
not so much with mine. But like when on day one walking in, I remember just walking up, closing the door. You know, you're in the shitty little room but with a bunk bed. I remember
So you
just
had a cellmate.
yeah. So he was just in for a couple of weeks or something. This particular
Okay.
guy, but then I went after 3 weeks. I got moved down to the drug-free wing. You know, which was you're in there with maybe some people who've sold drugs or been in for violence, and they're like, you know, they're not they're not taking drugs themselves, like, or on any scripts for like methadone for heroin, coming off heroin and things. So you're in there with I don't want to say probably a bit of a tidier bunch of guys in
Mhm.
that respect. You know, and I was in there with two guys, like, you know, lovely blokes, actually, right? And
Right.
I remember there was a room of three, and they had like a right little setup. They had a right little regime of cleaning the cell and things. And they were like, right, so you know, this is the etiquette, basically, and
Right.
you know, and they showed me the ropes in there as well. So they would say, "Oh, do this or do that," and they were brilliant. But I was only there for like two weeks after that, so 5 weeks in total.
Yeah.
And they came around one day and they said, "Oh, Stevens, you're off to Prescott." And then the two guys in the room with me had already told me prior to this. They said, "Oh yeah, if they try and ship you to like one of the other prisons, Park or something," they said, probably better off not doing it. You know, just stay here, and
And you
you
get
know,
a
and
choice in that?
so you've got to enter if you do like education. If you go
Yeah.
into education while you're there, you have a bit more sort of thing to say, oh, I'm doing education
Oh, so you get
here.
a choice of like, I want
Kind
to
kind
enroll myself in something.
Kind of, yeah. Not, you're not guaranteed. They might just say, "No, you're going," sort of thing. Um, but yeah, you kind of, you can try and make it more likely that you are able to stay. It's not guaranteed, like I said. But no, they said about press. So I said, "Oh no, I've already enrolled in education." But the two guys were like, "No, no, go." I was like, "What do you mean?" They said it's an open prison.
Right.
So it's, yeah, they basically, when you go in, I think they categorize you, so based on your risk assessment and stuff. And I think because it was under 30 months, first offence and non-violent crime,
Mm-hmm.
they what they call decatted me, so they sent me to a D category prison,
Right.
which is open prison. I was there for a couple of days, and then they
What
messed
is
something up.
open
So
prison? That means you can walk around the
you can
premises
walk
while
around the
you're
premises.
right.
You got to be in your room at 10
So,
o'clock or whatever,
okay.
but you get a key to your own room. You're not allowed. There's out of bounds signs. It was in the middle of like a woodland area, right? So it was just really nice.
All right.
But there was just out of bounds signs, and if you walk past them, you're fucked. You're gonna get extra time on your sentence, and you
Oh,
get
so
sent
it
back
is
to
literally like you could just try to escape.
people did, yeah. People
Yeah.
were like, they would you just do a runner, or and stuff like that. They'd always get caught, like.
And then
But you get a lot more extra time then, and
and
instead of
then you
serving
don't get
half,
such a nice prison deal. Yeah, you
yeah,
went to
you
the
wouldn't go
hard one.
back there
So are the other
again.
ones you're literally locked in a room the whole time?
Yeah, so I was locked up for 23 hours for the first 3 weeks. You had a bit more time out and about then, maybe 4 or 5 hours out in the wing. When I went to the other part of it, so the drug free wing. And then, yeah, when I went to the open prison, you're out all day. Like, you got to do a roll check in at like 7 a.m. and then again at 12, and then another one like in the evening. And then you've got to be in your rooms by like 10 o'clock, or on your wings by 10 o'clock.
Right.
And then you're going to be in your room by midnight. And they'd come round and check and stuff. But it was really sort of like relaxed, actually.
Sure,
You
yeah.
know,
So were you able to just like work out and study all day and chat?
yeah, literally,
Right.
yeah. It was a 1 mile like loop of the campus as well, and it was like quite like a hilly loop. So
Okay.
people would be walking around every day, or doing a couple of loops, running and stuff like that.
Right.
You had the gym as well. Me and one of the guys there, we had set up like a circuit out the back of one of the well, it's this like open area that was there, and we were just doing like a hit circuit most days and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it was if I had not got sent to prison, if I
Yeah.
just got arrested and they said right, slap on the wrist, I would have never done any of that ever again, right? Because I was
Yeah.
planning on stopping anyway. So for me, it's not like I was
You
on a
needed
bad
a
road.
lot of rehab or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like I wasn't like on a bad road. I felt like it was just a series of not so good choices based on the situation I'd found myself
Sure.
in. But at the same time, I wouldn't change it for the world, because you know, it taught me so much about myself. I met like one of my best friends in there, actually, so I'm godfather to his children.
Oh
Actually,
wow.
he's out in Dubai now, and he's doing amazing stuff. And I met some really interesting people. Like, I remember sitting there one day, and this guy, he looked like early 30s. So I was like 21 at this point, so like 11 years ago. And I remember thinking like he looked like 30, maybe even like late 20s, but he was actually 41. He'd been in for 21 years, right? So he'd
Oh
been in for
wow.
longer than he'd been alive up to the point of where he
He
committed the
went
crime,
in.
right?
So more than half his life. He's been
More than half
wow.
his life. And he was up, so he was from up this way in London. Um, and him and his brother were involved in gangland warfare. And he said there was a guy or a couple of people that tried shooting him when he was just walking around or something. And then he knew who one of them was. So him and his brother went, they kidnapped this guy, took him in the trunk of their car, drove him out somewhere in the woods, tied him to a tree and shot him.
What?
And he's telling me this while I'm playing chess with him, right? And I'm
And you're
like,
like,
I was like, man, look at that. You've checkmate me. I
oh,
gotta
you
go.
win. Oh.
Yeah. But honestly, right, to this day, like, I stand by this, to speak to him,
Yeah.
he was probably one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Wow.
Like, he was just a genuinely really nice person. Like, you didn't really get like this ulterior vibe about him or this bad energy or anything like that. And he was just a really nice guy. And like I said, it just blew my mind. And I thought what that taught me was like, not to say that that is it's a pretty big mistake, but
Yeah.
obviously it's, completely impacted so many other people's lives and stuff like that. But for me, I took that as like, you can change, you can try and
Mm-hmm.
make amends, you can do differently. You can be a different person to, as who you have been. Like he said, his brother is exactly the same as he was, and he's probably never going to get out of prison because he's just like he's in that system and in that world and just fucking around and getting phones in the prison and stuff like that. And
Right.
whereas he was like wanted to actually make a difference and do something
Sure.
different. So yeah, it was a really interesting experience, and you met some really like some people in there as well who had done some horrific things. Like
Right.
I won't get into that, but
Sure.
just you can imagine,
Yeah.
and
And
yeah.
they had a darkness about them.
Oh god, yeah. There was one guy. Yeah, I remember walking. I was working in the they call it the reception basically, right? So it's like where the officers work, and then they check people in who come into the prison, and if people are leaving, they get put out and stuff like that. So it's quite a responsible job, but because I was in there for a long time, like a good few months before you can go work in the community,
Mm.
they had me and one of my friends working there. But anyway, I remember they said, "Oh, we've got a really." They told us, those officers, they were like, "We've got a right horrible fucking bastard coming up,
Right.
basically." So he'd been in for 35 years,
Oh.
apparently. Yeah. For I don't even know if I should say. It's yeah, like basically, yeah, sexually, we raped and killed a 12-year-old girl.
Oh.
Yeah. Horrific,
Right.
And I remember seeing him. Oh my God. I just, his face is like etched in my brain because he had a darkness about him.
And evil.
Just this dark, vacant stare, just this darkness about him, like this smug grin. And I was like, oh my God. So
Like a
yeah, it was a very
psychopathic, didn't have the empathy.
psychopathic. Yeah, I
Right.
would say
Yeah.
so. Like
So there
the
are some people
vacancy.
that do need to be separated from the rest of society for.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, yeah, it was just an interesting, experience being there, I
Sure.
think, and stuff. But no, like to sort of go on from that, then
Yeah.
I was like, right, I'm never going to let this hold me back. I
Yeah.
want to prove to other people, but also prove to myself that that's not who I am. And
Sure.
so I got a job in a call center like a couple of days after I came out. I remember walking in, right, I had a three-piece suit on. They were like. They said they literally said to me, they're like, "You're the only person who's ever turned up in a suit to this interview," and they said, "We're going to give you the job just because you turned up,
In
in
a
a
se-
suit." So I was like, it was literally a call center, but I was there for like couple of weeks. Went to another call center. Went back to that first call center doing admin stuff. So I was like in there for about a year. But I was like, I've done all these qualifications while I've been in prison, like substance misuse, mental health, and stuff.
Mm.
I was like, I want to use this now. So I went into work in the substance misuse and mental health trade. So I was like doing workshops. Sorry, I did a couple of workshops, but I was doing one-to-one stuff with people. I got offered then to go back into the prison with somebody co-delivering workshops around substance misuse and things like that.
Right.
So
Was
did
it in
that
the
for
same prison or?
same two
Oh
prisons that I
wow.
was in. Yeah. So did that for a little bit. And then after about another year, I went and set up another a clothing shop down in West Wales. Had that for a little while. What else did I say? Yeah, had that for about a year. Then I went to work in a university, set up a couple of other businesses, which just didn't work. But what I realized actually going into the second university job I had then afterwards, which was Swansea University, I was around the same time. I set up something called Ideas and Beers with two friends, right? And that was like
Right.
a free self development focused community. So the idea was to basically just have people in a room
Yeah.
who wanted to talk about stuff other than like the stuff that we love and talk about.
Yeah.
I talk about like books and like health and well-being and all those sorts of things. So we wanted to create an environment where that was happening, and we did a couple of events and just trying it out. I thought, well, if I'm not doing this for money, because obviously it's actually costing me money to be here,
Yeah.
because it's like buying food and drinks and this and that. I was like, so it's costing me money to be here. So why am I doing it? What's the reason?
Yeah.
And that was when I stumbled on like personal values, essentially, those like
Right.
guiding principles which can kind of lead you in the right direction or the direction of your life, which feels more natural. So for me, I was like, okay, I clearly like connecting people to each other and actually connecting with new people. I clearly
Mm.
like, absorbing new information, but also sharing information that's potentially going to help people, and sort of those sorts of things. I thought, okay, how can I do this more? And if I
Yeah.
was to do this more and actually do it for work and or for business, for example, that's going to feel like a pretty sweet deal. I'm
Yeah.
probably going to enjoy it more. I'm going
Yeah.
to do better at it, and that's kind of what like sort of led me on the journey I'm on. Really, I
Right.
think it was if something just didn't resonate with me, or if I just didn't enjoy doing something, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to
Yeah.
find a way to change this route slightly and start doing
What feels
um
natural and what
mm,
just, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
just like being yourself and tapping into your gifts, and
yeah,
yeah, that's the
100%.
best way, right? So then you what set up these communities you that were and then you became what, a motivational speaker, and where did you do all of that? What kind of audiences were you speaking to?
Yeah, so I mean, I like the motivational speaking stuff. Like I always wanted to do that. So Tony Robbins.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I,
Huge. I mean,
yeah, I
he's
always
probably one of the probably the biggest in the world, right?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah.
And I came across his stuff. I'm not sure, maybe when I was like 17 or something. And I remember, probably about 18, 19. And when I was doing the entrepreneurship course thing before setting up my first business, I remember hearing a guy called George Sava. So he's from South Africa, but he's lives in UK. Um, lovely, lovely guy, and I've actually done talks now next to him and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And I remember just listening to him. He had this incredible way of delivering. I thought, I love this. Like, this is the kind of thing I want to be doing. And obviously, having seen Tony Robbins as well,
Yeah.
that was just I liked that. The idea of speaking in front of groups of people, but centered around sort of self-development and health and
Mm,
well-being, and trying to help and empower people to do things and make a change.
amazing.
And I feel like that was just something I really like resonated with. So yeah, I mean, going on, like I said, I had those different businesses. They didn't really work. I started discovering the stuff that I love to do, and doing more of those things. So I remember then I was working in Swansea University for like a year or so. Lockdown happened. Um, and I was doing a lot more sort of stuff for my. I was always like going to the gym and doing things like that. But I started jumping in the sea a couple of days a week before going into work. And I was like,
In
"Look,"
Swansea.
in Swansea,
So
yeah.
how cold is it there? Must be
Well,
pretty cold.
this was in like the middle of the summer and stuff, but in the mornings,
Okay.
and it's quite fresh.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was quite fresh. But I just remember thinking like I feel so much better and calmer and stuff going into work, and I was kind of like advocating for the benefits of being out in nature and doing good stuff for your well-being and things like around 2019, before I knew like I wanted to be on this journey. But anyway, I got to the point where I was like, I'm gonna get sacked from this job in Swansea Uni because I don't like it. I don't get on with my manager. I, don't want to be here, sort of thing. But at the same time, I felt okay in myself, and but I almost got like burnt out with the job, I think. So
But
in the
that
end,
job wasn't in self-help or self-development.
no, it
That
was
was just
entrepreneurship officer. So I was helping students set up businesses. Basically, it was
okay,
cool
cool.
job actually. And on
Yeah.
paper, right, based on
Sounds
my
good. Yeah, yeah.
experience, it was like it was great. It was a perfect thing. But I thought I don't like this. So I thought, right, I'm gonna leave this job and I'm gonna just set up doing something on my own because I
Mm.
want to be working for myself again. So I went back to the drawing board and I thought, okay, I asked myself four questions. What are my skills in?
Mhm.
What do I like to do or love to do? What do people come to me for? And what would I be doing if money didn't matter? Right. So those
Right.
were kind of four questions I asked myself. And a lot of it came back to sort of helping other people and things like that, and sort of, mindset, mental health, well-being, blah, 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 all of these things. And I kind of went, right, I'm going to set up as a mindset coach.
Right.
That was it. Now, it was kind of just before being a mindset coach and well-being coach and all these things was like, it feels like everybody is now. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It was kind of like I'd only met or heard of a few people doing it at this point, and I didn't know what that looked like.
So mindset coach,
Hmm.
that's what exactly is that?
So I mean, I suppose it's somebody who helps you with mindset, but somebody who helps you to look at the areas of your life that are maybe you're lacking in, or things, if your like, self-confidence isn't quite there, for example, or
Mm.
you maybe want to leave a relationship or a job, and you're looking for somebody to try and help you to work through it. So like it's kind of the bridge between, I'd say, like, going to like counseling, or things like that, because it's not counseling, but you're
It's kind of
listening to
life
somebody. It's
coachy.
kind of a life coach. Yeah, like the life coach is almost it's covering a broad spectrum of a few things, and you kind of do
Right.
that with mindset coaching. I just didn't quite like the term life coach, really.
Yeah.
And that's why I go more off well-being coach now,
Sure.
because like a life coach almost implies that I've got everything figured out, and we're going to
Yeah.
touch on your finances, we're going to touch on this and this, and it's like, no, I want to focus on these particular areas.
Sure.
So it's kind of the same thing, I'd say. But I kind of I set up as doing that, right? And I literally quit my job without having any clients like lined up, right? So I really did burn the bridges, and I had to kind of piece it together then. So I literally started doing like, I started doing some one-to-one stuff with people. I was doing some talks in schools and colleges and things already for like a year or two prior. And I was like, I want to do more of that. So I started doing more of it. And then I was literally doing takeaway deliveries a couple of days a week, just for cash in hand as well, to fill in the gaps with some of
Right.
the money. So I
Or
very much had to piece
Uber
it
Eats or
together.
something, was it?
Oh, literally, I was just I was just ringing takeaways, and I was like, "Do you
Okay.
need somebody to deliver for you?" They were like, "Yeah, yeah, great." So I was just doing a little bit of that as well. But I had this freedom, because I was earning a decent amount of money then, but I had so much more freedom, and
Mm.
it felt good to, if I was delivering for a takeaway place, and if they pissed me off, I'd just be like, right, fuck it, I'll
Latest.
find another one. So it almost felt like I had the power in my hands. I wasn't relying on a job per se. But anyway, after a couple of months, then I started to, be earning enough that I didn't have to be doing that.
Just from the mindset coaching.
So,
And
yeah,
what kind of was your philosophy of mindset? The way you asking people those 4 questions you ask yourself?
sometimes,
Right.
yeah. So I was working with one guy who, quite successful, and was sort of building up a business at that point. And that was more of like accountability, actually. So he
Mm.
was, training, and he was doing these different things, and he was doing well with the business. But it was almost like to like level it up again, pretty much with what he was doing, and also to hold him accountable. So if he's saying, like about the training that he's doing, or with the stuff he's doing with his business, it was almost to like keep him in check almost. So I think, so some people like that. There were some other people I worked with who, a couple of youngish guys, they would come to me for the mindset coaching, or the accountability, because they
Yeah.
wanted to be held accountable to like stay on track with
By
their
somebody
gym.
else. Like,
Yeah, with
because just having someone to answer to,
yes.
even your own plans, helps you to stay on track.
100%.
Right.
But it was interesting because they came to me for the accountability stuff, but actually we ended up, they ended up like, getting emotional, on calls with me and stuff, because there was obviously other things sort of going on. And,
Sure.
subconsciously, I don't think they didn't know this is what they
Right.
needed. But I feel like when they were just in that place of sort of vulnerability with
Sure.
somebody,
You made a
you know,
safe space for them, and then
absolutely.
stuff came out.
Absolutely. And that was,
Right.
that was what was really beautiful about it, actually, is it is providing that space for people to perhaps uncover what's going on, in their life, or what support they maybe need, and they didn't
Mm.
actually know they needed it, if that makes sense. So
Sure.
yeah, then it was, I did it for a while. I don't tend to do as much one-to-one stuff now. Like most of the stuff I like do and love to do is group-based sessions, so with schools, colleges, universities, or like 16 to 19-year-olds, taking them up big hills with like carrying weights on their back and stuff like that, or
Right.
cement bags. And it's less about the physical element, more about the self-confidence that comes with doing hard things.
I see.
So do that. Obviously, Wild Minds Gower, then I set up as well, doing like events and retreats with well-being. So we do a bit of like, a booklet thing, for example, or we'll do this with companies as well, where it'll be like, right, we pick a topic, let's just say imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And, we'll talk about that. There'll be a couple of question prompts, and we'll run through different strategies that they can like use to basically not feel like that, or work through it perhaps. General well-being as well. So figuring out where they are currently, and what sort of things are holding them back. So for example, Are they struggling with sleep? Are they not drinking enough water? Are they not spending much time outside? Are they feeling quite stressed or burnt out with work, with their relationships and stuff like that? What's going on there? Is there any sort of, anything that needs changing, or you're not spending much time with family or friends? It's kind of
Mm.
like sort of figure out where people are, and then I suppose guiding them, not telling them, but just guiding them to come to the answers themselves of what they need
Sure.
to do. Because we kind of
Just
all
by
know.
asking the right questions,
Mm,
it brings out
mm.
to the surface what they might be doing. Like, oh, I haven't seen my friends in weeks, or stuff like that.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do two things. It's like, a well-being check-in is one. So they'll be like, right, so how out of 1 to 10, so 1 being low, 10 being high, how do you feel like you are currently with these different areas? So 1 will be like fresh air, right? So if you're inside of an office all day and then you're driving to and from the office, and you're still in the house afterwards, you're not really getting much fresh air or being
Or
in nature and
sunlight,
stuff.
or yeah.
Yeah, so and then that's another one
All
is
right.
so your fresh air, water, nutrition, sunlight slash daylight, nature, exposure to nature, your social connections. So like these different areas, and it's like marking out the 10 where you feel like you're at with them, and you might actually realize, oh, hang on, I haven't been spending much time outside, or I haven't been moving that much because I've just been
Mm.
sitting down,
Yeah.
in work or whatever it is.
9 hours a day.
And if people are marking them like maybe 3 or 4 or quite low, it gives them something to work on. It maybe it
Mm.
won't be necessarily the answer that just changes everything for them, but if they can try and do things to move all of those little areas into the positives, closer to 10, it's going to make them feel a little bit better
Sure.
physically, but mentally
Yeah.
they're going to have a better quality of thoughts because of those changes they've made. So that's one thing. And then if like sort of dissect Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Mm.
you've got, self-actualization at the top, you've got self-esteem, you've got love and belonging, you've got sort of the safety needs and the physiological needs at the bottom. And what they say with Maslow's hierarchy of needs is kind of, you need these physiological needs to be met before you can move to safety needs. Safety needs to be met. Safety needs need to be met, sorry, before you can get to the love and belonging. And then you've got the self-esteem above it. And then you've got self-actualization sort of thing. But if you look at the different sort of components of each one. So like at the
Mm.
bottom, you've got food, water, access to clean air and things, and shelter. Your safety needs then would be like finances and having a job and things like that. The third tier, love and belonging, is like intimate relationships, social connections and stuff.
Mm.
So it's kind of what I try and do is like break all of those down and get people to do the same thing, right? So mark 1 to 10 for each of these areas to see where you feel like you're at with them, right? And I did it for myself. And what was interesting for me is I don't know, at the time, I think it was finances and also intimacy. Those areas were like lacking for me, and I thought that's bringing me back down this pyramid, this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because if you
Yeah.
look at if anyone Googles it, listening to this, it's like the pyramid, and you kind of can't reach that at
I'm
self-actualization.
pulling
Yeah,
one up.
get it up.
That's it. Ma-
Maslow, hierarchy of needs. Yeah,
Hierarchy.
because they say to get to that self-actualization stage, which is where you're creating your best work, sort of, I suppose, vibrating at the highest frequency and being your most authentic self. To get to that, you need to have all these other areas sort of, in a good
Mhm.
place. Um,
Let me just pull this up.
mhm.
Okay,
That's it.
so
Yeah,
we have this
yeah.
here. Okay,
So you got
so
air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction at the bottom. Personal
yeah.
security, employment, resources, health, and property above it. Friendship, intimacy, family,
Oops.
sense of connection above that. And then respect, self esteem, status, recognition, strength. And then to get to that top version, then it's like that desire to be the best you can be or most you can be. And it's an interesting one because, like I say, if you all these like subheading bits, if you pull those out and get people to sort of, write down where they feel like they're at with each of them, it's
Mm.
quite interesting because you might go, actually, my sleep's been quite bad. And, I don't know, I'm not having much sex at the minute, or, or actually I've been served a notice on my job and, the company's shut in and, that the security's at risk. It makes it very difficult to be that like authentic, creative version of yourself because of these things that I suppose that are causing stress or bringing you back down that pyramid.
Mm.
So it's like, Yeah, I kind of do stuff like that with people.
So do you start with the bottom and work up, or
Yeah, yeah. So I
yeah?
get people to just get like an A4 bit of paper, write down, each, so that you can do the lines in between each section,
Mm,
write down then each of those components, rate them, and then just basically, yeah, work your way up the pyramid pretty much. So,
okay.
yeah, but like I said, sometimes it gives you a bit of an idea of, okay, if I work on this area or this area,
Yeah.
and it can kind of help you move you in the right direction, I suppose, with how things are gonna, yeah,
Sure,
make
yeah.
you
And I
feel
think
better.
just bringing it to people's awareness through the exercise of just a simple 1 to 10, where do you think you are,
Mm,
is quite a useful exercise for people to do, because maybe most people
mm.
just go through life day to day. They don't think about those things. So that's quite good.
100%. I
Yeah.
don't as well, this
Yeah.
is it. And like I said, it was,
You should do
you
like
know,
a check in now and then. Where am I
yeah.
with all this? Yeah.
Once a month, I think is good. This kind of one, once every couple of months, maybe. And like I said, it won't necessarily give you the best answer, or what you need to do, but it might give you a little hint of like, oh, actually, yeah, this is
Yeah.
something to maybe look at working on. So yeah, I kind
Yeah.
of do those sorts of things as part of it. And
I think so much of
yeah,
the sort of physical or like physiological, whichever you call it, is like will affect your mind, right? And the way
mm,
you think. If you're not exercising, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not eating and drinking water, and then the way you think about the world and your life and
mm,
everything that's going on will be totally different. If
mm,
you go for like a nice hard workout,
mm,
afterwards, you'll just naturally think in different ways. So
yeah,
I often feel like I don't work out to have like, to like
mhm,
try and get buff, and obviously that's a nice side effect, but it's actually for my mind more than anything.
yeah.
And I think encourage people to obviously work out, but is that part of what you do as well? Is it always,
Mm.
the physical? Because okay, let's get into your physical stuff, because
Yeah, yeah.
you really take stuff to a next level with this ultra marathon running, and you actually ran one barefoot. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, so I'd always been into running, right? So a shout out to my auntie Cheryl, right? So she got me into dipping every day actually as well. So they're going in the sea every day and stuff like that. So she got me into that, and she got me into running. So she used to just sign me up to like 5Ks and 10Ks. I would turn up probably hungover half the time because I was younger when I was doing I started doing it. And
I'm just gonna pull up some of your highlights here from your own website,
oh
if
yeah.
that's all right. Let
Yeah,
me
yeah.
just pull this off.
Yeah, so I started
Give
doing
us a bit
the
awkward to do
half
this.
marathons, did loads of half marathons over the years, and then I never thought I could do a marathon. So this is going back to the self-worth, self-confidence
Yeah.
stuff. And I came across David Goggins, right? So this was in 2019,
Right.
so a long time ago.
Right. So
Um
some of your highlights. Wow. So you've done
yeah, there's loads more than that. These are just some of the
really.
bigger ones, really. Yeah.
I mean, 100-mile ultra marathon. What's that in kilos? Kilometers. That's like what?
160, I think.
160, is
I
it?
think so.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that. I
That's
think it's
incredible.
160.
Wow.
Yeah, so that actually that top 100K ultra marathon was 20 kg. So I actually only did 50 kg with it, but then I took the bag off and
50
did the other
km. 50 km.
50 km with the
Right.
20 kilos, and then I did the other 50K just on it without
Right.
the weight. So me and one of my mates, we were raising money for a charity that was providing aid in Palestine.
Right.
So we did that, and that was to represent if somebody's being displaced,
Yeah.
they would be carrying all of their life basically on their backs with regards to all of their like
Right.
the
Oh, that's why you added the weight
that's why we added the
on
weight.
top of the
And
distance.
the
I mean,
distance is the distance from the river to the sea as well. So
wow.
yeah, like the river to the sea is around about
100K.
100K, I think. So
Wow. Is that what? And like, is it an ultra marathon? Is it a standard length, or they have all different?
50K or 30 miles is kind of the like entry point pretty much for an ultra marathon. So yeah, about 30 miles. So that the barefoot one I did was a 30 miler, so 50K. So I ran like it was all on the trails and
Is
took
that all
like
in one go?
yeah, it took like
Wow.
10 hours, something like that,
10 hours.
barefoot. But it was like,
How do you prepare for that? Is that like you build up to it?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I did a couple of barefoot runs to sort of just acclimatize my feet to the trails and stuff. I done a couple, but ultimately you just gotta go and just
What kind of
go for
ground
it.
are you running on?
Bit of a mixture. So like a little bit of tarmac, not much. Mostly trail, so like loose rocks and stuff. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Little bit of grass and mud, not much. Quite a bit of beach as well, so
Okay.
sand and stuff like that. And then there's a few rocky bits of terrain as well. Like it was rough. It took me an hour to cover a mile at one point because it was so like
Jagged.
rocky.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Yeah, just so jagged. It was just horrific on your feet. It took me like an hour to cover a mile. But yeah, I tried a 100 miler 3 times. So I was trying to run from Bath in England back to Swansea. So I
Right.
got 70 miles the first time, 75 the second
So
time. And
what
then the
happened?
third
You just
time I
said,
did,
"That's it. I can't go more," and then just collapsed, or what?
I had like muscle spasms. I was hallucinating. I was just about walking and I was
What
like,
were you hallucinating?
well, so it was only a very mild one, but like I kept imagining cars coming past, right? And it was like 4 a.m. in the middle of nowhere, like on a main road, but there was no cars coming past, right? And I kept on like jumping, thinking there was cars. But there was a guy. I was with one of my mates who done a big section of it with me, and there was a guy that came out of nowhere, right? And this is like 4 or 5 in the morning. He was like, "Boys, have you seen a pit bull on a staff?" And
Yeah.
I'm like this. Oh, my head's fucked. Like, I thought I'm imagining this.
Yeah.
But he was genuine, like, the
Oh,
guy
that was a
he was
real
actually a
man.
real guy, 'cause I just looked at my mate, and my mate
It's like,
responded to him.
"Are you seeing him too?"
That was it, yeah. But yeah, it was, he was like a real guy, but, like, I thought, "Oh my god, yeah, my head's gone here," but I did it on the 3rd attempt. I haven't done the Bath to Swansea route yet. I finished it, but I just did laps of Swansea Bay, so it's a 6-mile bay, and I just did that for like 28 hours in like 31-degree heat and ticked it off. Um, but no, the ultras go. It's sort of the purpose behind that, really, for me. Like I think we talked about it briefly before the
Mm,
podcast started, wasn't it? It was kind of like, you know, the sense of achievement and reward that you get from doing something that's challenging or that you didn't think you could do or other people didn't think you could do,
mm.
I feel like it just reinvents you. You start to look at yourself and think about yourself and talk about and to yourself in a very different and more
Sure.
productive way. So,
The
if you
self-talk just becomes
yeah,
anything's possible.
100%, yeah,
Right.
or you start think if you're going through some sort of tough situation that life's just thrown at you.
Yeah.
I feel like if you've done these really like tough, challenging
Yeah.
things, you know, and voluntarily, put yourself in these tough situations, you kind of think, hang on a minute, no, I've been in these dark places, or if I can run 100 miles or, do these crazy things,
Mm.
like I can sort of dig deeper and work my way through whatever this situation is that's I'm experiencing right now. That's kind of what it was like for me. And it was also quite a niche thing when I started it. I think like,
Yeah.
like it's the last sort of 6 months or year, like ultras and doing big distances like that. It feels like so many people are doing it actually,
Yeah.
which is amazing. And I love to see it, but I think when I first started, it was very like niche and,
Right.
um, yeah, I do. I love getting to that point where I'm like, I don't think I can go any further. And you somehow manage to
You just
keep
dig
going
deep
and
and
dig deep in.
pull something out. Yeah.
Yeah, the person who walks out the door when you go to do something like that is not the same person who walks back in later, and I just think
Right.
that that's quite a scary but actually really empowering thought. Um,
And there must be
so
like,
mm,
I'm guessing there's like a community around that as well. So you
yeah,
train with people, you kind of,
I
or is it quite a solitary, like me versus me?
there's a lot of that
Yeah.
actually, but there is a huge ultra running community, and yeah, like I've kind of done a bit of both. So I run with people quite often, and I've got a good community of people and people who all do ultras and stuff, and like just some of my friends and things like that. So I've naturally found more of these people who love doing mad shit.
Right.
But at the same time, like I'm happy to go and do them by myself. So I've done about 15 ultras and about 6 or 7 at marathons,
Uh,
but I'd say only about two of those marathons and about 3 or 4 of those ultras have been organized ones. All the others was literally like me and a friend or a couple of friends just saying, "Oh, let's just do this route and just go for it," basically. Um,
so how long would it take? 100 kilometers? I mean, I'm just thinking because is that like 10 hours more? Like 15
yeah,
hours?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Because
over
I'm
10
just
hours.
thinking when I do to do 10K, even on a treadmill, would take like an hour or something. If you're going
Mm.
at quite a solid pace as well.
Yeah.
So times by 10
Yeah, and you add the terrain in and
and the
the
terrain and
stops for like
barefoot and you
rest
add
and
kilos.
yeah. Or
Wow.
the 20 kilo one, so like I said, it took 32 hours altogether with the 20 kilos. Like obviously
So
the
how does
guy
that work? That's like overnight then.
it was crazy. So I think we got 13 hours in to do the first 50K.
Okay.
And I took the bag off of 50K and I was like, I couldn't take the bag off, let alone put it back on. Like that's how battered my body was. But my mate who I was doing it with, he had a weighted vest on, 20 kilos, but he was just stubborn. He was like, he said, I don't care how long it takes. I am not letting off like, 'cause I'm not taking, he was taking it off to rest, but he was like, I am not finishing it sort of thing.
Right.
But he was in a
With the
really
weight.
bad place. So I stuck with him then and we finished it together. But like I just, I did 50K without the weight and 50K with the weight. For me, it was more about the fundraiser and the awareness
Sure.
of what was going on out in
Right.
Gaza. So
So
yeah,
when was that? Is that recent or
no,
no? This was a while back.
this was a while ago.
Right.
Yeah, this was maybe yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's probably about 6 months since 6 months after the conflict started again
Right.
out in Gaza.
Okay.
Maybe around March or April last year, perhaps something like
And you
that.
just saw
Yeah.
stuff on the news and you felt you wanted to do something.
I knew about everything that was going on with Palestine for a long time because I've got some good friends who one of my good friends from school is half Palestinian actually, so I knew a lot
Right.
of what was happening. Years prior. One of my other friends, Abby, she's incredible. Like she's been an activist for it all for a long time. So when it all kind of kicked off, I knew. I knew that there was other agendas and there are other things going on with it, and obviously you see what was happening on social media, which was horrific.
Yeah.
And I knew that the narrative was sort of pro-Israeli, and it's like
Yeah.
they're doing this to defend themselves and whatever without getting into this too much. But
Yeah.
and I think okay, what happened on October 7th was obviously horrific, but it was like there's so much history prior to that as well. And I think
Sure.
that we kind of wanted to change the narrative within Swansea, for example, so people realize, oh, actually there's something more that's going on here. And I
Yeah.
feel like now everybody has seen what's happened
Yeah.
and actually there's so much more to it. But at the time it was like, yeah, we just wanted to almost like stand by that cause because I think
By
it was an
the
important thing.
by the
So
innocents who were in the middle of it all and were
mm,
suffering. Yeah, that's interesting. Because
mm,
yeah, I think it just came out yesterday or the day before that their Google received like $45 million
mm.
from the Israeli government to basically put out propaganda
Wow.
for them to like, spin it a
Mm,
certain way in the online and in the media, etc. So
I can believe
I
it.
mean, there's definitely, in this day and age with all this social media, there's definitely a lot of propaganda coming from the
Mm,
government level to try to change the mindset of the people about particular subjects, especially this one, which is so, you know, such a
mm,
heated topic. It's very hard to,
mm.
talk about it with people. People seem to be very much one side or the other. I mean,
100%.
for
Yeah.
me, it seems obviously it's horrific, the suffering of the people. I mean, just look at the before and after pictures of Gaza. It just
Yeah.
says it all. This is, a complete destruction of the entire place,
Mm,
hospitals, schools, like all the civilian, infrastructure, buildings, everything. I mean, I'm kind of reluctant to talk about it because
mm,
I don't know enough about it other
mm,
than, quite surface stuff, but it's
mm,
pretty clear. Certain things are undeniable that there's suffering. There's a lot of children have died.
mm,
I mean, it's just crazy. The numbers coming that are confirmed by both sides that,
mm,
how many kids have been killed who obviously are innocent in it. And that is obviously unacceptable. And it's sad that it's still going on now. And
mm,
if history is anything to go by, the governments go into wars on false pretenses, and that's come out like
mm.
the war in Iraq, and that was all on false pretenses, but there was no consequence of that. It was like, yes, we did it. We went in, we
Yeah.
killed loads of people, we destroyed lots of, the
Mm,
country's infrastructure, etc. We put in a new government, And yeah, that was all based on lies. And now what?
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing.
This is
There's
it,
no
and
consequence.
and that's the unfortunate thing about what's going on there as well. Is like you said, it just doesn't seem like there isn't any consequence, and they're just
Mm,
kind of you know they're almost being like overly audacious. So actually, somebody that's going on a bit of a tangent with this, but there
yeah.
was some I think it was I don't know if it was a comedian or something I seen before, and it says like, you know, if you say something audacious, like Frankie Boyle, for example, right?
Yeah.
So obviously he's just like really audacious about what he
Yeah.
says. If you try and like dial it back or apologize for it or something, then people will like, go for you type thing. Whereas if you
Yeah.
then say something even
We
more
double down.
audacious,
Yeah.
double down with it, people kind
Yeah.
of go, oh, well, that's just the way the person is, sort of thing, you know.
It's like
And
Trump's like
it's
that.
almost it's almost like what they've done. It's like they're being audacious in terms of like what they are doing there, but because they're just like continuing on with like the stuff that they're saying
Relentlessly.
and being
Yeah.
relentless about it and
Yeah.
things, people become a bit desensitized to what's going on. If
Mm.
they were to try and backtrack and say, "Oh, sorry, yeah, we shouldn't have done that," all of a sudden they've opened themselves up to a whole
Yeah.
world of trouble. But
Yeah.
yeah, anyway, I mean, yeah, going on, it's a
Yeah.
tangent
Yeah.
with that one, but
No, I hear you. That's an
mm,
interesting idea. And I think, Trump's a huge example of that. He's not backed down on
mm,
anything. I,
mm,
I mean, he's never apologized about
mm,
anything. He just goes forward and forward. And I
mm,
think people see the kind of a strength in that
mm,
in a way. That's why
mm,
he has been so successful. I mean, to
mm,
be re-elected after
mm. Yeah.
all the how many comedians have done bits about him and like try to pull him down, and he's
Yeah.
just still going. I
Well,
think he's probably one of the, in terms of like NLP,
mm,
his self-talk is probably the most one of the most positive you can imagine
yeah,
in the whole world, right? Because
yeah,
everything he says is just like, this
mm,
gonna be the greatest,
yeah.
this is the greatest thing of all time, like
I think
the
it's
biggest, the bit.
narcissism,
Yeah,
actually,
it's
isn't it? It's like it's
narcissism.
extreme
Extreme
narcissism, but
narcissism, but in a way that is
yeah,
positive self-talk, right?
100%.
And it's
Well,
almost self-manifested into where he is now, right? It's just
100%.
blasted through any kind of, you got the thickest skin you can imagine. I mean, the amount
Mm,
of abuse and jokes about him, and it just, I mean, in a way he doesn't have thick skin because he does react to it, but
mm.
he about himself never concedes anything, right?
100%. And that's what they say, isn't it? Like if somebody is as like, is narcissistic, they're like statistically more likely to be successful
Right.
because of the fact that, like you said, they've got this unwavering like belief within them, within themselves. So when I do stuff in schools,
Uh,
I kind of touch on this and I'm like, I'm not telling you to be a narcissist,
uh,
I'm just saying that the self-confidence and self-belief aspect, which kind of goes hand in hand with people who are narcissistic, that is the importance of it, and that's why it's linked to sort of success, essentially, is because
yeah.
you truly believe that you can achieve something. So I'm like, what I say to people is like, I don't want you to become a narcissist. I don't
Yeah.
want you to become like like Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
I want you to you know think or listen to and tune in with that voice that's like in your brain saying,
I
I can't
can.
do this, or I
Yeah.
can't do this, or
Yeah.
I'm not able to do this, I'm not worthy of this, or I don't deserve this, or money always escapes me because I whatever, so
Yeah.
I feel like if
Uncover
people
those beliefs that
mm,
might be in there, that might be blocking you. That might be
100%,
like,
yeah.
you might have opportunity and you self-sabotage or whatever.
I feel like
Yeah.
we all self-sabotage. I feel like we have, like I said at the start, we've got this magic, but I feel like the world beats it out of us, or the
Mm.
things that happen and the environments that we find ourselves in, or the opportunities that we take because they look like good ones, but actually they're derailing us from the things that we should be doing.
Mm.
I think you hear about it all the time. People will get like this amazing opportunity, but it's something that actually they're not really like passionate about, and they realize like a
Yeah.
little bit down the line, oh, actually I shouldn't have maybe done that, because I think
Yeah.
any choice we make is closing another door, or
Yeah.
any door we walk through is closing another door somewhere else.
There's
And I
always
think,
an opportunity cost of whatever you
yeah,
do, you're not doing something else. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's yeah,
Yeah, that's, I mean, you see people like, Kanye West, he's another one, right? That has that unwavering
mm,
self-belief, I mean, sense of,
yeah,
puts himself on the level with the greatest of all time. Like, Da Vinci and Jesus, and he feels like he's a god himself, which is interesting because it's sometimes you need that kind of almost fake it till you make it delusion, and people laugh at you until you do it. Like a lot of people that do achieve great things have that, and in a way it's better to have an attitude like that as an optimist of what could happen than someone who's like a naysayer or what won't happen, because those ones will never go anywhere, right? Often.
100%. I know somebody who, like you said, is very much has like delusions of grandeur and always has, and then has always like sort of lied about stuff actually.
Oh,
So like,
right.
yeah, like lied about things, but with this sort of like really
Confidence.
internal, yeah, this confidence or internal belief that actually this is like something that is going to happen and whatever. But like you actually, even though a lot of it, you're a bit like, you can't actually deny where he is now and the things that he has achieved,
Right.
which is interesting because, like I said, there was so much of it like before, which was, you were kind of like, hang on a minute,
Fake it till you
that's not
make
true.
it,
And it was,
basically.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you said,
Yeah.
it was like, delusions of grandeur, fake it till you make it. But actually then, it's kind of open doors and things like that. But actually,
Yeah.
like, you've got to be, like you said,
Confidence.
a little
Yeah.
bit like,
I think.
delusional about stuff. Because if you play it safe and you think, oh, actually, I'm going to be realistic,
Yeah.
which is what people say, oh, you should be realistic, whatever.
Yeah.
You're sort of crushing the
Yeah.
potential. Actually, have you heard of the flea in the jar sort of thing that or
Story.
experiment that
No.
they done? So I think they basically put like a couple of fleas into like the jar. They put the lid on, and
Yeah.
now it says if you leave the lid off, the flea will jump out of the jar. Whereas if you put it in, you put the lid on, it'll jump up and it'll keep hitting its head on the top of the jar. Eventually, it will stop doing that, and it will only go until it'll jump up just high enough that it doesn't hit its head on the top of the jar. And then it says if you put like flea babies in there, for example, then they
Yeah.
never jump high enough to hit their head on the top, right? They emulate the other fleas in the jar. And I think it says that even if you take the lid off then with these like flea babies, they'll only still jump as high as like they would have before, the lid was there. So
What? So they would only jump as high. They're
even
like trained to
they
not jump higher than the lid.
absolutely, yes. You could
Right.
take the lid off actually after a while, and I think they say that they will still only jump so far so that they don't jump like high enough to hit
Because
their
they're
head.
like programmed not to smash themselves.
100%. And it says that like we kind of do that. So like the environments that we find ourselves in, whether it's relating to our parents, for example, or it's the actual environment that we're in or the social groups that we're in, we only jump so high or try and do things enough so that we're like, do you know what I mean? We're
Oh,
not
so you
reaching
mean
as
that the
much.
babies were only jumping that high, even if they were,
Mm.
because that was passed down through the
Maybe
the
it's more like the behavior of the other
the
fleas then
behavior,
perhaps. I
right?
don't know. Like I said,
Sure.
I don't know the ins and outs of that,
Okay.
but I think it's more of like an analogy in a way,
I
because it's
see.
like we do it ourselves in our lives. We'll like,
Yeah,
find
no, that
ourselves in
makes
environments. They call it
sense.
like tall poppy syndrome, isn't it? So it's like have you heard of that?
Tall poppy.
Tall poppy
I'm
syndrome.
trying to
So
pull
I
that
think
up.
what they say is like if you are like so Swansea where I'm
How do you
from.
spell that? Tall, T-A-L-L?
So yeah, tall poppy. Oh, there we are. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
What is tall poppy
yeah.
syndrome?
So aversion to tall poppies is said to be particularly strong. A tendency to drag down those who set themselves above others.
Ah,
So that kind of
okay.
has two roads to it, right? So I think it stops people from wanting to reach out of their out of the
Because you
norm
stick
of
your
the
head
area.
out above the rest, and then
100%.
what? That gets chopped down.
Yeah, 100%. And Swansea, and I think small sort of like it's about 300,000 people in Swansea, right? So it's a pretty big city, but I feel like that sort of concept
Yeah.
is very relevant in places like Swansea. So like if you want to try and do something like out of the norm a little bit,
Yeah.
people will try and tear you down. It happened to me actually when I first started doing the mindset coaching. I
Yeah,
was
you
like,
were saying, yeah,
I was
people were like, "Hey, you're gonna fail trying to pop your bubble."
yeah. No,
Yeah.
they were. They was like, there's people like sort of, like slagging me off, a couple of like, slagging me off on Twitter, like a group of boys in a WhatsApp group was just mugging me off on Twitter and things like that. And like the sea swim group, because that sort of formed, and, they were just like taking the piss basically of us all. Because it was like we were doing something that was a bit niche and a bit out
Yeah.
there, but, and
Well,
also like
you
what I
weren't
was,
conforming.
yeah, one
Yeah.
of my friends actually, who I used to own the tattoo studio with. So like I said, we're good friends again now. And
Yeah.
he said to me, he said, isn't it funny? This was years after all of the, like, that side of things, when I first started doing the coaching, he said everybody was laughing at you when you first started doing what you're
Yeah.
doing now. He said, when's the last time you heard any of them laugh now? Because he said,
Yeah.
obviously you've proved.
Who's laughing now?
Yeah, yeah, he did. He said, he was like, because you're doing the stuff that you love to do. You're earning money while you're doing it, but you're making an impact and whatever. And he was
Yeah.
like, and he said, actually, you've been unapologetic about it, in the sense that
Yeah.
you just have just cracked on, despite people trying to tear
Exactly.
you down. So it's,
Which
but
is
the
a
tall
harder
poppy thing
challenge,
is,
right? To do it despite people trying to hold you back as
mm.
well. So
Yeah, but the sea dip and stuff, we haven't touched on that actually. But like I said, it'll be in October now. It'll be every day for 5 years that I've been going in like a natural body of water. Because if you remember in Ibiza, I was like
yeah.
driving to one of the beaches to jump in the sea when I like late in the night and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And yeah, so
And all
it's,
the cold plunge stuff. You
yeah,
were staying in the inside for quite a while, weren't you?
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love it, especially when you're in Ibiza. Like that for me was great, because I was just like, oh, this is this is great.
Yeah.
But the
How long?
dopamine
How long were you doing? Like 10 minutes? What was it?
no, it wasn't that long. No,
'Cause that's like a proper ice bath, right? I mean, I
mm,
got to 1 minute and that was it, and I came out and my legs were like,
yeah, I think I did maybe 4 or 5 minutes
yeah,
or something like that. Well, it was, you don't really need to do much more above
yeah,
that, really,
because it's just
But
to trigger the kind of reaction in your body that
mm,
will, have the health benefits. Yeah,
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 yeah. But the like consecutive sea dips, actually, just to sort of touch on that really quickly,
yeah.
because like I said, my auntie, she kind of got, well, I was going in a couple of days a week anyway, but my auntie said, right, stop going into Swansea Bay, come to Langland Bay because the water's much better and stuff like that. It's much nicer. So started going there with a couple of friends during lockdown. I was sort of advocating for the benefits on socials of like getting out in nature, being around, being out in nature, being in the sunlight, jumping in the
Mm.
sea, doing these good things so that, to help you. And a couple of people started bringing people. All of a sudden, we had a community which formed called the Wet Bandits, which is still going
Right,
to this day.
right,
And we've had like thousands of people, come over the course of that period of time. And there's about 100 probably still actively involved, 50
right.
kind of core community, but 100 in the sort of wider community. But anyway, we one day somebody come up to me on the beach and they said, "Oh, are you Ryan the 100-day dipper?" And I
Oh.
was like, I said, I'm Ryan. I said, I don't think I'm the 100-day dipper. And turns out there was another guy called Ryan doing 100 days consecutive dips, right? But after that
Ah.
conversation, I was like, I fucking like the sound of that. So, I kind of Googled what's every day UK winter, right? And it said from that day, 26th of October, until spring equinox, right? So that's like the winter season or
That's the
whatever.
coldest.
Yeah, I think they kind of, to do with like daylight saving. I think maybe I'm not 100%, but it said from that day till spring equinox, like March 20th. So okay, great. I'm going to do every day of winter, like which is like 120 something days. But I kept on going after that, and when I was approaching 1,000 days, then one of my
What,
friends,
jumping into a sea or a large body of water,
natural body of water,
natural body of water every day for 1,000 days?
mate, well, I'm on nearly 1,800 days now
Oh,
of
so you
every.
haven't broken the streak.
I've never broken
Wow,
it.
so
Even when
where'd
I've
you
been
go?
to, even when I've been to Morocco, when I've been to Scotland, when I've been to like,
Like
you know,
London? Like what? They just go and jump in the Hyde Park or something?
well, so
Lake or
funny enough, this
something?
is the first time I've been to London in a couple of years. Like,
Right.
so I drove up and back, once or twice, like a couple of years ago. But I was like dipping before I went. I drove up and stuff. So I haven't done it today yet. But I'm gonna get the train back in a bit, and I'll just go then later this evening. But yeah, I just find a way to make it happen. Really, I
Wow.
just like it. But what's like I love about it is, it takes you on these like weird and wonderful journeys that I
Mm.
would have never otherwise gone on, or seen these other things I wouldn't have
To
experienced.
find the body of water itself.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's obviously generally in nature. So
mm,
you've been in nature every day then,
yeah,
or
yeah,
some kind
yeah,
of nature, right?
yeah, yeah. But the what the thing I wanted to touch on with that, right, is coming up on 1,000 days. My friend said to me, "Oh, I wonder when your 1111 consecutive dip will be, your 1,111th, right?"
Yeah.
And he Googled it, or whatever, worked it out. He said, "Mate, you're not going to believe this." He said it's on the 11th of the 11th.
No way.
So on the 11th of the 11th, 2023 was my 1,111th consecutive dip. And I was like, that's fucking crazy.
The
And for me, I
chances.
was like,
Something
I love
aligned. Yeah.
I love these little signs, these little well, I got it tattooed on me
Yeah.
now, like
Wow.
and 1111 beer. Like the little synchronicities. I feel like that is, I think Carl Jung said, it's the sort of language of the universe, those synchronicities. It's almost like, Or you know, obviously people who listen to this are religious, sake, you know, you'd say it's like maybe the language of God or whatever. You know, for me, I just think, okay, there's something that's telling me I need to kind of go in this direction, or this is the right thing for right now. And it's incredible because the opportunities and the trajectory that it's taken me on from doing that every day
You
is
just
just
come
unbelievable.
you come across these little random places. You have to find water.
People,
Then
right, the
people
random
who are there,
people in these places, the conversations I have, like, so TJ
because you must get
Power, like,
people
you know,
asking you like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "Oh," and
yeah.
then you go into
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you do get some looks actually. Yeah, I know. But like, you know, you know, TJ Power said about it. You know, he was like, you know, we seen obviously because I won won the retreat where we went to, and I won in a competition.
Yeah.
But you know, he said, he was like, what caught our eye actually about stuff with you is the fact you were going in the sea every day and doing that and stuff, and it's just like those little, you know, opportunities or stuff like that kind of manifested then from just doing something that, you know, I just felt right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's the right thing to do. In Krakow, in Poland, we went out there for stag do, and you know, the boys were literally like, "Are you fucking serious? You're going to know, to jump in the water when we're on stag do?" But we all ended up taking, you know, the little scooter things
Yeah.
to go to this natural body of water that was in this like it's like a sort of a salt mine type thing, or like a you
Okay,
know,
like a
a
quarry.
quarry, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like a quarry, crystal blue water.
Wow.
There were thousands of people there because, and they had all music on and stuff because it was like basically their answer to a beach, you know. And all the boys were like, "This is insane," you know. And we would have we were jumping off the rocks, right? And we would have never gone there, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that I needed to go to that natural body of water. So it's like, and that was a highlight for us actually. And being on the scooters was a highlight. So we had a hell of a laugh, and I just feel like those little things
It
have.
forces you to create something out of the normal routine to go and just on the search for it. Right.
Yeah, and the big thing is as well is the sense of achievement. Like I said with the ultras, you know that like I don't want to do it most days, right? Especially in the
Right.
winter, I'm like, fuck, why am I doing this again?
Right.
But after it, I never regret it. I'm always like,
Right.
I'm glad I done that, and
It's
you like
almost like
that.
when you need to go gym, you're like, "Oh God, do I need to go?" But then afterwards, you're
Yeah,
always like, "Okay, I'm happy I did." Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because just putting it back into TJ Power's paradigm, like shout out to TJ Power, you're getting
yep.
lots of love on this one. Yeah, I guess the sense of dopamine you get from achieving something,
mm,
you get the serotonin from being out in nature, you
mm.
get, if you're swimming, you get the endorphins, and what's the other one? Oxytocin, if you're like
Meeting people
meeting
there or
people and stuff.
fussing dogs, you know, that's it.
Yeah, and also if you're in nature, because there's a lot of stuff you get from grounding. You're jumping in the water. You get, is it ions or something? You get
Yeah.
some sort of
Mm,
positive vibes from that. I mean, I don't know
mm,
the science, but I've definitely seen posts and
mm,
information about being in, and I definitely feel myself like
mm,
when I'm on holiday. One of my things I like to do,
mm,
and try to do it with my wife, is also go for runs on the beach,
mm,
and that is like the best way to start each day. I feel,
mm,
because you get out, you get sunlight, you get feet in the sand, and then you finish with a jump in the sea, and that
mm.
is like no way you can have a better start to the day from my point of view.
100%.
I
I
really,
completely agree. Yeah. Like and I think jumping in the sea, especially when it's cold,
yeah,
for me, and I've said I stand by this, is probably probably the quickest and most effective way to drastically change how you feel, like, and
right,
how you and subsequently how you
100%,
think.
yeah,
You know, because like you know, you say if you do a hard workout, you know, mentally you might be a little bit like, you know, annoyed or anxious or worried or stressed or concerned or whatever it is. And if you were to go and do a hard workout, you physically, you're going to feel a bit better or a bit differently.
yeah,
And mentally, you're going to perhaps feel slightly different and better.
yeah,
And I feel like the sea dipping is because you could literally, all you got to do is walk into the body water,
yeah,
you know, dunk your head under or whatever and walk out. So, you know, with a workout, it takes a little bit longer to do
yeah,
that,
yeah,
doesn't it? Even with breathing, with breath work, you know, because if you were to do some conscious breath work, it takes, you know, maybe a couple of minutes or a couple of rounds of breathing to sort of change that sort of state.
mm-hmm,
You know, and that is obviously one of the quickest and effective ways as well. But I think the natural body water stuff, like, you know, running in, jumping in the sea, or no, dunking under, you know, it's like you're in and boom, like that, all of a sudden,
it's just
you're in this
shock,
different headspace. You're
yeah,
physically feeling different and better.
change of state,
Yeah,
instant,
and
yeah,
the best thing is it's free.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that I advocate like
That's
as many
true.
people, obviously you've got to worry if like you've got like heart conditions and things like that, but if you can do it like risk free, or with minimal risks and stuff, the benefits are just like, for me, I just don't feel like there is much of a downside to it
Sure.
actually,
So like you just dip and that's it. Like as long
Mm.
as you've dipped, do you swim around normally or
Not really,
no?
no.
It's
Like now
more
and again, I
just
will
like a
have a little
dip,
one, but not
right?
much. Yeah, just dip. And like I said, I'm going away at the end of October now to do my yoga teacher training in India.
Oh wow,
And I'm going onwards from there to like to Sri Lanka, to Thailand, to Australia for a little bit as well. So I'm like
nice.
really looking forward to that, because that it looks as though when I get to Australia at the end of Jan, beginning of Feb, that's going to coincide with 10 years ago me being released from prison. So it's going to be a very
Right.
beautiful full
10-year
circle thing. And
anniversary. Wow.
yeah, so for me, that's going to be like a beautiful sort of full circle moment, because that's something I've always wanted to do.
What to go to Asia, Southeast Asia,
Well,
and
yeah, to go to Asia on the way to Australia, and to go to
sure.
Australia for a little while, even if it's just a few months,
Dude, it's such a
Um,
beautiful part of the world, really.
mm,
Southeast Asia,
mhm,
like Thailand. I mean, I lived there for a bit. It's like just
mm,
such a amazing place, beautiful culture,
mm.
beautiful beaches, beautiful food,
Yeah, I'm
amazing
hoping
people.
like I can keep the consecutive dips up when I go this year. But
Oh
this is
yeah,
the thing,
there, you'll have no problem.
in
There's
India's going to be
highway.
the challenging one, yeah, because
Yeah. Oh my God, you're gonna get in the Ganges.
I know. Well, I've kind of, so the week that I go will be 5 years to that week that I started the consecutive dips, right? So
Five
it'll be
years
5 years every
every
day.
day. So what? Even like Christmas Day, you
Oh yeah,
find
they're the best days. Like
right.
there's
It's like
loads of
kind of
people come, and
special.
we've all
Yeah.
got Santa hats on and stuff like that. Yeah, I've been in when it's -10 with
Oh,
like 40-mile-an-hour winds. Like I've been in when it's like 20-foot waves and stuff like that. For anyone listening, we do take like obviously the necessary precautions. Like if you go in on a day like that, like we won't go in further than our knees. We'll just
mm,
duck under and stuff like that. Because the sea swim group, there's a few guys who are former lifeguards and stuff. So we take a lot of precautions. So anyone listening
sure.
to try it,
Yeah.
be cautious. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, because it's a lot can go wrong. Thankfully, I've never had any, touch wood, never had
Right.
any
Any
close
issues?
incidents.
Yeah.
Um, you know. But that you got to watch out for riptides, you got to watch out for the waves and pull underneath and all that kind of stuff. But we've
Sure.
been
Of
in some
course.
crazy conditions, and I think the
So, so,
coldest
so,
water was
so
point
where have you
five
mostly
degree.
done it then? Around Wales,
Mm.
but then when you've traveled,
Mm.
then you just have to find
Yeah.
somewhere everywhere.
Well, see, yeah, like when I went to Morocco,
Mm,
went to Marrakesh, and I kind of accepted that I might not be able to do the dips, right? I thought if it is what it is. If I can't do it, the consecutive stops.
mm.
But I seen there was like a pond on a golf course thing, right? And I thought, oh, it looks quite nice. Oh, fuck. When I turned up, I went, I can't get in that, right? It was just full of like algae and
Oh
stuff.
my
It was just
God.
disgusting. I thought, I can't do that. But then so I dipped before we got the flight. And then the following day, then we were going up to the waterfalls anyway. So I ended up going in this lovely waterfall and stuff. I thought, there we are. But then the following day, we just got like a taxi to this massive lake, right? Up in, I
Mm,
think it's called Takhoust, I think, in
okay.
just outside of Morocco, or Marrakesh. And it overlooks the Atlas Mountains, right? And it's crystal
Right.
blue. It's
Wow.
incredible. So I got in there. And then the following day, I was like, oh, fuck it. I'll just get a taxi up there again, because it wasn't that far away. And like the taxi driver that took me the next day, he came and he sat by the water with me. He said, "Oh man, I'm gutted I didn't bring my shorts. I'd have come in with you." And I had a great chat with him, and and obviously he's got to experience this amazing place. And had a great chat with the guy as well. And I just thought like that wouldn't have happened,
Yeah, it really
if
forces you off the beaten path to like
yeah.
seek out this quite unique
Mm,
experience. And it must
mm,
always, I guess, be a conversation starter because
mm,
wherever you are, you're always like either about to go off to one or just have
mm.
come back from one. So
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
where have you been? Oh, sorry guys, I got to shoot off to do my sea dip. Kind of
Yeah, it happens all the time. Like if we like I run like a rave run with a local cafe in
rave
Swansea.
run. What's that?
So I'll carry a big speaker, like get a couple other people carrying speakers,
Amazing.
and like we'll have one person at the back, a couple of people in the middle, I'm at the front with the speaker. We'll get all glow sticks and stuff and just take people on like a little 5K easy
Oh,
paced run. But it's all
nice.
about like, the vibes and stuff.
Amazing.
But like I've done a couple of times after we finished it, right? We've gone back to the cafe and had a little drink or whatever. and it's like, 10 p.m. or something then, or 10:30, everyone's like shooting off. And there's been a few instances where I'm like, right, I'm off to dip. And my mate who comes along and he's done some of the DJing for it. He looks at me, he said, "Oh, are you fucking serious?" He's like, why are you doing it? Why haven't you done it yet? And it's
Yeah.
just hasn't worked out that day or whatever. But there's been a few instances where I've gone in at like 11:30 in the night and I've
Yeah.
like just about
Just
made
about,
it.
right.
But those are the ones where you're laughing at yourself. You're like, what am I doing? But actually, they're the ones you remember. Those are the ones that you give you that little sense of pride for having kept
Yeah.
on with it. So yeah, some might call it obsessive. I just think, it feels like something I'd
It's
like
like
to
a
do.
little
And
it's like throwing a little wild card into your day every day. So it
mm,
must cause a little bit of spontaneity, but
mm,
obviously with a focus. But then
mm,
how you achieve that, it must like cause a big ripple in
mm.
kind of the normal routine of things.
100%. Because
Yeah.
like you said, physically you're going to feel better for it. Mentally, you're going to feel better for it. Subsequently, off the back of that, you're going to, think better thoughts potentially and make better decisions
Mm.
and interact with people in a better way, which then would feed into like the opportunities that you get, the perception or that other people have of you. And and actually what you end up sort of, attaining or achieving in life because of the sort of energy that you were generally responding at, but putting out there,
Yeah.
because of the actions you're taking, and I think that's why I love like talking about well-being. That's why I love like
Sure.
promoting that kind of
Yeah.
stuff and doing it myself because, you're priming your state, energetically and vibrationally to kind
Yeah.
of create the best outcomes
Yeah.
through the things that you're doing, the things that you say, and the person that you are. Like, for example, if you walk into a coffee shop, and someone's like, "All right, yeah, what do you want?"
Yeah.
"Oh, I'll have a cappuccino," and you
Yeah.
you just sort of almost match it, don't you? And you just
Yeah.
kind of
You match
y
their energy.
match their energy or something.
Whereas if
Whereas
you
if they walk,
change your energy and
mm,
then you radiate out
yeah,
and you go in the room, you can
mm,
like have a sort of ripple out and
mm.
affect everyone else.
And you'll know it, like, when you go to, a coffee shop, which is like and then you have the person who's like, "Morning, how are you? You okay?"
Yeah.
"Oh, what can I get you?" And they ask you feed off it, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh," and you walk away
You sort of
feeling.
vibrate at the same
Yeah, yeah.
energy
You
level.
might
Yeah.
hold the door up from somebody when you're walking out, and you might
Yeah.
get, say, "Oh, morning" to other people in the street. And I feel like, and that's I always like talking about that as well. I feel like the way that we can kind of change the world for the better is, by just putting out that sort of like energy, that positive energy as much as
Mm.
possible. We get it reciprocated then quite often from a lot of people, which then in turn feeds
Yeah.
more positive energy from ourselves. They feed it on to other people. They end up, trying to help other people selflessly, even in small ways, like I said, by just maybe giving some money to somebody who's homeless or buying somebody a coffee or,
Or smiling at a
smiling
stranger.
at
Yeah.
someone,
Yeah.
and
Those little acts, they ripple out. Yeah.
100%. And
That
we,
could be a great video to show it happening. I think I've seen things like that where you just
mm,
have one little act can just be and then it can even come back to you. But yeah,
mm,
it multiplies out and
100%.
sends out. I think that's a great point to end the podcast on. Actually,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
how long we've been here? We've been
I
like 2
think
hours, haven't we?
yeah, we're going a while. Let's send out positive vibes
Mhm,
to everyone. Thanks for coming, Ryan.
mhm.
I think that's a great point to finish it on. So
Thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
that's no,
awesome.
thanks for having me. And like I said, it's amazing to see you again, actually, and
Yeah.
actually make it happen. We did talk about it when we were on the retreat, didn't we? So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's maybe I'll come for a sea dip with you sometime.
I'll hold you to it. I'll hold you to
Okay. Thank you.
it.
Cheers.